Good morning and welcome to another interesting edition of Newspaper Today on Osbc TV. Today we start the review of newspapers we start the review of stories that made it to the headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning. NLC retirees lament as 26 states face to join scheme. China to fund Port Harcourt Maiduguri Abuja Kano rails. Anti-graft war should start from National Assembly EFCC. Akpabio meets Tinubu, dismisses crisis. And still on the Punch newspaper this morning, Gaza hospital attacks spark protest, bidding Israel blames terror group. Ondo Assembly asks Ayedatiwa to withdraw suit. Extortion. Police remove DPO, try orders. And still on the Punch newspaper this morning, Alaafin, EFCC quizzes Oyo kingmakers over bribery allegations. And moving on to Daily Independent newspaper this morning, Atiku asks Supreme Court to reject technicality, admit fresh evidence. Still on Daily Independent this morning, Nigeria lost 2.9 trillion naira from 2018 to 2022 to contract fraud, EFCC boss. Still on Daily Independent newspaper, Sanwo-Olu kicks off construction of 100 million Lagos Film City project. Intel shows Israel not responsible for Gaza hospital blast, says White House. And still on Daily Independent, NCOs sacks 2 personnel, sanctions 35 orders. And moving on to Nigeria Tribune has the following stories: reject technicality, overrule Tinubu on fresh evidence, Atiku tells Supreme Court. Lagos government to Lekki, Ajah, Meron, other communities relocate immediately, flood is coming. 40 traders feared killed in Yobe auto accident. Still on Nigeria Tribune this morning, Alaafin stool, EFCC quizzes Oyo kingmakers. And moving on to this day newspaper, Naira weakens to 1,000 naira on parallel market as dollar demand rises. FIRS issues 2-week ultimatum for remittance of VAT on compliance evaluation. And moving on to Daily Sun this morning, Atiku tenders CSU certificates, asks Supreme Court to sack Tinubu. Still on Daily Sun newspaper, Sanwo-Olu begins construction of $100 million Lagos Film City. And on First News this morning, anti-corruption crusade, don't use me as example, Akpabio tells EFCC chairman. Senator Abu makes U-turn, says Akpabio not behind a sack, apologizes. Police commence trial of officer who fired shots in Ladipo market. And on the Nation newspaper this morning, the Nation newspaper has the following stories: more Chinese funding for rail power other projects. ICPC recovers 655 billion naira cash assets in 4 years. And still on the Nation this morning, Senate not boiling, says Akpabio. And lastly, on today's review of newspaper, we move on to Daily Trust newspaper. Senate confirms Olukoyede as EFCC chairman. After 1 billion naira drop, Nigeria may suffer further decline in FX inflow, report. 3 terrorists, 1 soldier killed in gun duel in Kaduna. Marketers blame Forex as fuel scarcity returns to Lagos, Abuja. And on this note, I would like to welcome my guest on today's edition of Newspaper Today, Mr. Kayode Adebisi. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Then we start with this story that was boldly written on Daily Trust this morning. Marketers blame Forex orders as fuel scarcity returns to Lagos, Abuja.
Well, the issue of Forex will still remain with us until we do the needful. Our economy is in shambles. It's monolithic in terms of relying on petroleum alone. And if you don't boost your local production in terms of investing in the massive area of agriculture in particular, there is no way oil can bail us out of this embarrassment. So everything is being dollarized, everything determined by dollar. So if you want to import today, it will be based on dollar. If you want to also export, it will also be based on dollar. So, and there is no formula any CBN governor can use to improve the quality of Naira unless you also boost your local industry. That's why we are telling Mr. President that you should at least make one of the refineries working to the maximum. This is the area, the period Nigeria can benefit from the Palestinian-Israeli war, because the prices of oil have gone higher due to the fact that this war power, they are now concentrating on war, on the war. So a country like Ghana will benefit, Angola will benefit more than us in Africa. Yet we say we are giant of Africa. So the president should do the needful. The modular refineries they promise should have been on ground by now, since the era of Buhari. Not on ground.
Okay, thank you for shedding light on that. And on News Direct this morning, Nigeria loses 2.9 trillion to contract fraud in 2 years, EFCC.
Well, there are so many ways of people being fraudulent in terms of contracts. You can remember the case of P&ID case with Nigerian petroleum and gas contract with foreign country. Some people are being arraigned now for their nefarious activities in that contract. So many things. Some people will collect billions, they will not even do any project in this country. Even they are now even planning to buy a wagon jeep of 130 million for each honorable National Assembly, and you are saying you are sacrificing. In a society like that, there cannot be just contribution, there cannot be patriotism on the part of the citizen. So many fraudulent schemes are on ground now in society, deceiving people, collecting people from the people, because the government we have is not even serious. The leadership are not serious.
Okay, and in the same vein, Senate confirms Olukoyede as EFCC chairman.
Well, there have been so many diverse opinions on whether or not it's qualified to be appointed, because it's not the assistant commissioner of police. Go by section 2, section 3 of the EFCC Act 2004. But the argument of the presidency is that he has been in that service for a period of more than 10 years, and he has acquired enough experience in security matters, and he's a consultant, and also apart from being a lawyer too. But if anybody is not happy, then they approach the court of law. That is the best option for now. He has been confirmed to be the chairman of the EFCC.
Okay, thank you. And still on Nigerian News Direct, NAFDAC approves vaccines for cancer immunization. Do you see this reducing the cases of cancer deaths in Nigeria?
Well, preventive is better than cure. There are so many causes of cancer. Our attitude, the type of food we take nowadays is more of this fast food. And before you know it, it will develop to severe diseases in our body. But no matter the vaccine you give to people, if the attitude of the people is not changed as to the type of food, some people will just be eating this fast food for a continuous period of maybe every day without looking at the implication. So the attitude of the people must be changed as to the type of the food they take in.
Okay, thank you for that. And moving on to Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Gaza, Islamic nations accuses Israel of state-sponsored terrorism.
Well, Islamic nation accuses state Israel of terrorism. The same thing the state of Israel also accuses the Hamas. They said they are after Hamas and not the Palestinians. And if you look at the issue of that place, it's very funny. You have many Israelis that are Muslims. You have minority of them that are Christian. And we have also vast majority that are also Judaism. So it's not really about the issue of religion, but both parties, they are under religion. It's about that occupation of the land. So just to show grandstanding that Israel is very powerful in terms of technology, in terms of arsenal. And there's no war in this, as you have seen, that have ever performed them. But notwithstanding, the role that the world powers like USA, like the Russia, United Kingdom, France, and China, the 5 world powers, the role they play, will go a long way whether or not this war will be ceased on time or not. If they are taking sides, either of the two sides, the war will escalate. Before you know, UK is not taking, the third war is coming in gradually.
We hope not. And moving on, still on Daily Trust newspaper this morning, China commits to refinancing Abuja Kano Port Harcourt Maduguri railways.
Well, that will fetch a lot of billions of dollars. The railway that are being consulted now and the one being proposed, how far has the young government, how have they been committed to security matters? There are so many of our roads now, even the sea, that cannot be applied because of this banditry, terrorism, kidnapping. So what I'm saying in essence is that in essence, the private governments and other stakeholders, local government and the state, they should prepare ahead in terms of providing for adequate security. Many people cannot fly the road, cannot fly the train now, especially in the northeast and the northwest. Not to talk of the issue of IPOB in the southeast. Security matters, not just spend billions of naira in the project like that without providing adequate security. Some coppers are still in the den of the criminal now. Up to now, a few months ago, when they were going for their mobilization in the north, they are yet to be released.
So security measures should
be put in place and should be intensified.
Thank you. And moving on to the Nation newspaper this morning, EFCC quizzes Oyo kingmakers over Alafin. What contrast does the EFCC has in appointing kingmakers or quizzing kingmakers?
Yes, even the Basoro himself said now that the Agba King and some other person, because the council have been polarized. He said it, I read in the newspaper, that because of the benefits they receive from the king nominee, because they believe that benefit was too small, that's why they back out of the nomination. So, and he said there is nowhere they don't lobby. So all those languages insinuating that, and the governor said that the king is not for sale. So that means the money has exchanged hands, and they must answer for that. If there is evidence, EFCC has the right, of course. If it's a constituted economic crime, if it is the money of the people that are being spent on them, so they should know. They should account for it.
Okay, thank you for that. And moving on to first news this morning, palliatives. Abiodun extends 10,000 naira transport allowance payment to civil servants.
Well, that one cannot go anywhere. Do you know how much they are paying on daily basis, even within Osogbo metropolis here, for you to come to your workplace every day? It's not a teacup. That's what they are saying, that these people, they are taking people for granted. Because people themselves, they have sold themselves cheaply to the politicians. So when somebody dies, I saw the youth, this issue of Bado, although it's good that you must the deceased, the dead, but the youth are not even gravitating their energies on the issues of increment in the school fees, no electricity, no job employment. You are not protesting on that on daily basis. Ordinary increment the prices of wheat to produce bread in Kenya. That was the only issue that the people protested against, and the government revised that price. You are not concentrating your energy on the issue that somebody died, want to take the whole country, put the whole country down. That's what we have. If you have a very sophisticated society where we have the civil society that are very robust, then the government will not just be taking people for granted anyhow.
Still on first news this morning, admit fresh evidence against Tinubu. Atiku begs Supreme Court. alleged forgery says it's grave constitutional issue.
There's no forgery. They are only chasing where the goose was a wild goose chasing. Sado. Because the election petition is so generic, it's special. If you have anything against this man, but God said, by the time he emerges as the candidate of the party, since last year, you should have gone to Chicago and get this evidence on time. Then you file it along with your petition. You don't change the goalpost in the middle of the football game. It's not possible. You cannot take your enemy by surprise. That is an ambush. And the Supreme Court is the last court of the land, and they have precedent, the authority they have made before. They will not deviate.
So moving on to Daily Sun newspaper this morning. Governors Forum backs state of emergency in education.
Not only in education, there are so many other areas in the area of employment, health, energy, in the emergency, even the security. The government has not gotten the will to declare the state of emergency in security matter. And that's the central point. All these governors that are collecting security votes, and those that are saying that they are fighting it to other sectors, have they been able to publish the amount of money they have collected so far? They will not publish it. You'll be surprised. It's going to the trillions in some states. And yet, the people are suffering.
So it's not only in the education sector.
Every other sector is affected now, particularly the issue of security. Yes, by now you should have a kind of conference, summit, that let us give the state and local government power to recruit certain number of people to face this urgent situation. Well, why are you saying that it's only central police? They cannot do it. Nigeria is over 250 million people. How can you now say from Abuja alone? It can never be done.
Thank you for that. And still on Daily Sun newspaper this morning, FG subsidizes electricity with 135.2 billion naira in 3 months, and we still don't see the electricity sector.
Even the one I bought in my own residence, I was able to load it more than 1 week ago. They said there's new code now, and when you load it, maybe we don't know what is in that code. Before you know it, before 1 month, they say you have sorted your something. So there are so many things that are wrong with our system. And we only copy the European, copy the IMF, the World Bank. We don't look at our own peculiarity here. We are talking of the strong institutions, we have the laws. We are talking of institutions, the law is the institutions, but people are not respecting the law. People that are there.
Okay. And still on Daily Sun this morning, Tinubu charges information minister to ensure Nigeria believes in country. Is this just in believing the country? Is it just by mere words or by actions?
No, it's not by packaging. It's by providing defense of democracy. It's by you yourself, leaders, everybody lead by example. The follower will follow it suit. There is now the law on ground to regulate the social media. Yes, nobody has the right to just be publishing anything on the social media anyhow. It should be regulated. I agree with the government on that. God that gave us the freedom to talk. God does not say that go and blaspheme your neighbor or to speak evil of somebody. No. Okay. Anybody that does anything that incriminates him himself should pay the law. You don't just desecrate somebody's name and you believe that you will escape. So we should regulate. We have governments to ensure that they give dividend of the rest of the people. Let there be the rule of law, transparency. And anybody that is found wanting, no matter how place or any political party, bring the person to court. And when they are convicted, they don't grant the pardon. We have pardoned somebody who is serving 8 years, Jolly Yame, Reverend Jolly Yame for that matter, and Dariye. They were pardoned by Buhari when the election was about to happen then. Without sending a true signal to the people that Buhari was serious. It meant it was not serious. All the efforts of the prosecutor to spend money to call witnesses and the judge to research and to convict them based on the evidence, they have been rendered useless. Because others like them, like Dariye, that see many, they still be there, thinking that if they are involved in the same thing,
they will still go
scot-free. And that's why the Olukoyede said yesterday that the war against corruption must start from the National Assembly. But for him now to actualize that is another thing entirely.
That's a big one. And moving on to this day newspaper this morning. Lagos government warns residents of Lekki Aja other imminent flooding, advises them to relocate. And when it comes to this issue of flooding, it is not just in Lagos State. There has been warning in other states too. So do you think the government of each other state should also give a warning signal?
Well, there are some areas of Lagos State that there was not supposed to be any construction of any building. But because government of the day itself, there are corruptions within the government official. Why did you allow them to build in the first place? So just like the former governor of Osun State, last said that in this area of Gbami, was it the Gbami that has been there before, or you that came to build the house? The Gbami as a swampy area has been there. So why did you go there and build the house? But it shouldn't have stopped at that. It should have investigated that who are those people that allowed them, either from local government or state, so that it will make them the scapegoat. But he just said it in a jocular manner like that. So government has their own fault in this issue of flooding. Some are not supposed to happen. Somewhere you have not prepared ahead of the season. If you have excavated areas that are out to be excavated before the rain starts, you don't have people to relocate. You don't provide alternative where they relocate to. Where will they go?
Okay, thank you for that. And moving on to Nigeria Tribune this morning. CBN's policy on 43 items will collapse many industries, man tells FG.
Well, yeah, 43 items they are talking about is about the federal exclusive rights that are under federal government. So if the policies is okay and well implemented, then the local industries that are not functional, let them go. Those that are just receiving money, maybe government-owned local industry, let them be privatized, or they should engage in public-private enterprise. Not that wasting money on them. The refinery, for example, now, the workers there have been collecting salary without doing practically anything, and it's not their fault, because the machine with which they work is not working. So it's the duty of the government to ensure that both local and international industry, they are key into the policy of the government, and they to observe that they follow the policy to the letter.
Okay, and lastly, on today's edition of Newspaper Today, we move on to the Punch newspaper. NLC retirees lament as 26 states fails to join scheme.
Well, even those people that join the scheme, how sincere are they? There are so many states that cannot even pay anything contributory after retirement because they are spending the people's money. So all this NSC will go on strike. Definitely there will be many strikes soon. Not only by the NSC, but other chapters of the state, they will revolt against the maybe sitting governor. So there are so many, the governor is too just expensive. SA, special advisor, collecting 4,000 something a month, doing practically or nothing at all. And people that have labored for for so many years, you find it difficult to get the peanuts. Is that a just society?
Okay, thank you for that.
That is not a just society.
And on this note, we come to the end of today's edition on Newspaper Today. Until I come your way next time, join us for another edition of Newspaper Today. And I thank my guest again, Mr. Kayode Adebisi, for joining me on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for inviting me.
Till I come your way next time, I am Adeniyi Adebayo. Have a wonderful morning.